Hi everyone, welcome to Draw with Julie. This is week 2, and today we're going to be focusing on light sources. Let's go. So, just to recap. Okay, so these 3 videos will explain different forms of light in detail. The first one, shading light and form. This guy talks about this egg, and it's just such a brilliant video on different types of lighting to think about. The one thing I wanted to draw your attention to is have a look at this gold ball. You see this line going across the middle? This is the light coming, bouncing off the paper back onto the ball. So you might see this when you're doing some sketches. Sometimes, again, it can add drama to the picture and make it look more realistic. But you see there's almost a glow here, and that's the light reflecting off the ball and bouncing. Reflecting off the paper, bouncing on the ball. So they're both like lighting each other up there. One of the things I'm going to ask you to do for homework is to draw an object at least 2 different ways on 2 different types of surface. So on a dark surface and a light surface. So you can observe how light interacts depending on what the object is on, as well as where the light's coming from. So again, it's just a really interesting thing. This center area is called half light. Right underneath where the ball is touching the paper and no light is getting through because our light source is this way, that's called the crevice shadow. So that's the darkest area. So we kind of started looking at shadows last week. As the shadow moves away from the object, it's not as intense. So if we were saying that on a value scale of 1 to 9, this is kind of the darkest, this is a 9, and then as you move away you're getting more like a 7. And then there's this kind of odd word, penumbra, I think it's called, and it's kind of like an additional extra little line that sometimes occurs. So if you were to get like a really bright lamp and put it on an object, sometimes you see like a fuzzy outline. If you were to put the object in front of a wall and the light on the wall, you might get like a funny little, like almost like a halo around the shadow, and it's called a penumbra. So you've got your core shadow on this side. Now this is interesting. It's called the Terminator, which I love this phrase because I think of Arnold Schwarzenegger. But basically, if you were to draw a diagonal line through the object, the Terminator is slightly darker. So it's where it transitions from light to dark, and it's actually slightly darker. This video explains Terminator really, really well. But again, it's something to, I find these videos just a little bit interesting and might be a bit geeky, but I did actually watch these videos with Dean tonight to see if he would understand them, and he found them really interesting too. This one, Artistic Eye Training, is, I love this guy. It's a guy who goes out into nature with his dog and the camera and just explains about shadows and light and from an artist perspective. He also covers vanishing points, and I just really like the way he explains things in layman's terms. So again, I think you'll find these videos quite useful. The mind-blowing realistic shading, this guy is definitely a geek. It's definitely next level art stuff, but if you want to watch it just out of interest, it is very technical, but again, kind of useful. But the first 2 for sure are really, really interesting. So anyway, just in case you ever have heard these words before and you weren't sure what they mean. I mean, cast shadow, you've probably heard of that one. I use that a lot when I'm teaching painting. Highlight. So the ones I would say the particular attention to is highlight, full light, and cast shadow and shadow. So the others are kind of just there so you know what they mean if you ever come across them. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to talk about was ambient light versus direct light. So Dean loves drawing anime, so I picked something anime. So at first, these 2 drawings look very similar. but one has very defined light and shadow, and the other one is a bit more hazy. And you might hear a lot of artists use the phrase ambient light and focal hard light. So, you know, a lot of the time in photography, they'll put those, you know, those great big umbrella lights like right on somebody. So it's a really, really direct light source. But a lot of the time, if you're doing any drawing in nature, or in a room where there's several different forms of light. So there might be a lot of light coming out from a window, but you might have a light on as well. It's ambient light. The light is all around. It's not coming from just one source. So if you want to add drama to a drawing, and again, this is going to come back to the homework, I want you to draw the object using a direct light. So put a lamp on it and then just have it with your normal lights on and see the difference as what the object looks like changing the light source. So that's the difference between focal or hard light and diffused or ambient light. We are going to do a fun sketch tonight. I'm not going to make you draw a bowl of fruit or anything. I wanted to get you to draw something that was a little bit more fun and interesting. So we are going to draw a landscape with one definite main light source. This is what I would call diffused light because, you know, the light is all around, but it is coming from one particular direction. So you've got very defined shadows, but there is a little bit of light on the other side of the mountain. You know, we're not doing that focus light where it's like black on one side and white on the other side. But so we are going to do this sketch because I thought it would just be fun to do some real drawing rather than drawing squares and circles and bowls of fruit. So so we're going to do this because but we're going to focus on light and dark, and we're going to focus on the full value scale of 0 being white, no color, no shading whatsoever, and 9 being black. So it's just going on from what we did last week, and I'd like you to experiment with lots of different forms of shading. So we're going to do scumbling and hatching and cross hatching, and you have a choice of different shading techniques. So we're going to do a little bit of inking tonight if you happen to have a black Sharpie as well. So that's kind of just briefly showing you what we're going to be doing this evening. Couple more things on light sources. So you have this statue here. Don't know if anybody knows this statue. I think it's quite famous, but I can't remember what it is offhand. But again, just when you're looking at an object, thinking about where the light is coming from. So this light is it's on the front of the object, which again, a lot of photographers will use. This light is coming from slightly from the side at a 45-degree angle, and they've very handy kind of put a little picture of a light there so you can see where it's coming from. This is fully on from one side. And then this is kind of more of the ambient light coming from a few different sources. And see, they've said there's a reflector here. You know, we talked about if you draw an object with a piece of paper underneath or even a wall next to it, the light bounces off that object or off the table and then comes back up. So it causes some reflective light to come on the other side. So again, this is just notes for you that I thought, I wish I'd had this stuff in one kind of document. I had many books, and really I feel like this is like the bare bones of what you need to know when planning a drawing or a painting. So so again, this is another sketch which I thought, this is the Terminator line. I thought that was like a really good example of the direct line there. There is a highlight there. It doesn't show up very well on my screen here. It might show up on your screen, but again, can you see how it's like much darker underneath and as the shadow moves away? So you now know what a Terminator line is. Okay. And then I'm going to briefly talk about the homework, and then we're going to see how everybody did with the homework from last week, if you did choose to do it. So I'd like you to pick one object. I put objects there, one object to draw from life. Please do not use photographs because I want you to really experience the light and experience moving things around. So please use 2 or more light sources to draw the object. So what I mean by that is draw it twice. So draw it with, you know, maybe a lamp on one side and then move the lamp in front for the second drawing. Or do one with directed light and one with just the lights on in your house, or next to a window. So so draw it with 2 different light sources. You can choose the object and how the light is going to be positioned. It could be a water bottle up against a wall. I'd also like you to try drawing it on a dark surface and a light surface, or in front of a dark wall and in front of a bright wall, and see how the light bounces off and bounces back again. So it can be anything. It can just be one of those little kids' blocks of wood. If you want to do something a bit more, you know, challenging, there's an example of a mug here. There's going to be points again for the drawing. So just a little bit of something to practice in your own time. So that's this week's kind of program on light sources. I'm going to just quickly go back to this little drawing because I think that's really useful. I hope you enjoy the videos. These are artists that I follow and I think they're really interesting. And as I say, if you're a bit geeky like me, you'll find them fascinating. It's like I just love learning from other artists. So okay, so this is the little scene. Can you see that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of shadow, you can see the shadow. So I have a big lighting setup in here because I actually have light coming from 2 different sources in this room. I have a big overhead LED light and then I have my ring light. So hopefully it won't affect the drawing too much. But so the tools that I'm using this evening is I'm not going to use my ruler tonight. I'm going to be using for the initial sketch a 2B pencil. So 2B pencil. And then I'm kind of going to go up the values as I want the darker values. I'm going to go up, work my way up 3B, 4B, 5B, 6P. So for some of the shadows, I used a 6B for this shadow, but I really wanted to define the trees, the kind of the dramatic shadow on the mountain and the grassy areas. So if you think, when you're planning a drawing, if you think of a value scale of 0 to 9, where 0 is white, no drawing on it whatsoever, and 9 is black, and try and get a full range of the spectrum, it just makes the drawing more dynamic. And to achieve that number 9, I'm actually going to use a permanent, this is a fine liner, and then I've got a fine Sharpie. These 2 are kind of almost the same. I do have, so that's an ultra fine Sharpie, this is a fine Sharpie. So you can also use a black pencil, like a colored black pencil. I don't do the inking until right at the end, because up until then I can erase things. I can kind of just use lots of small lines. If I decide to move things around, I'm not really overcommitted, but once the ink's on, it's on, you know. So so I want you to feel that this is your drawing. You can change it. You can have some fun with it. You can, you know, you don't have to have the cabins in there. You can have a whole village in there. You could change the winding roads. You know, I want you to feel that this is your scene. The one thing I would like you to focus on is having a value scale of 0 to 9 on the lights and shadows. And to have a definite light source. So mine is coming from the right. The one thing I wanted to talk about was when you are drawing cast shadow, a little tool like I call a pendulum. I I don't know if that's a real word or it's something I made up, but so if you decide where your light is coming from, so it's normally kind of, I kind of use a stick, especially when I'm painting, and then I'll kind of root it. I'll decide where my first shadow is, and then I'll root it, and I'll move this like a pendulum, so all of my shadows will fall in line, because the shadows won't all go in the same direction. They'll change based on where the light is coming from. So I'll often keep a ruler or a stick with me. One example is, I don't know whether some of you may have done this painting with me recently, and you can see very similar. There's some shadows coming from these kind of bits of wood from the dock, and the angles are slightly changing based on the light source. So the angles will change. So we're going to talk about that more next week when we do vanishing points, but I just wanted to do a brief introduction to the lines aren't all in a row. They'll slightly change depending on the angle of the light, so like where the light is coming from. But say don't worry about it too much at the moment. The thing that we're talking about today is light and shadow. We'll be doing vanishing points next week. So next week we're going to do a street scene, so we get a few more angles, and we're going to be doing vanishing points, so 1 and 2 point vanishing points. So one of the fun things we're going to do next week is design your ideal street with all the things you would love to see, in like the perfect little, if you were to go and find like a little village, cute little street, and it had all your favorite stores, and we're going to kind of design those, but it's an exercise in vanishing points. So, you know, right. So is everybody okay if we start this? Yep. Okay. So I'm going to start with my 2B. Dean sharpened the pencils at the wrong end, so a lot of these don't have the numbers on, but not very helpful. Okay, so I'm going to start with the road. So I never put my horizon line dead center. It just doesn't really read right. I always try and just drop it, even if you just drop it very slightly. So I'm going to start with my my little winding road, and I'm going to take my winding road kind of right almost to this corner. And the winding road's going to lead off into the distance kind of there. Is that showing up okay, or do I need to do this in thicker pencil? Is it showing up okay?
No, I can't see it very well.
Okay, I will do this in a heavier pencil. Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So because this is really far away, it's going to be very close to start with. And then I'm going to take this right over. I may have done that a little bit narrow here, but this is the beauty of pencil, because we can make changes. There you go. Did anybody do this painting with me, just out of interest?
No.
No. Okay. So I'll just, so I'm not repeating myself if you already know it. Okay. So as fence posts get further away, they get significantly smaller. They look closer together. So I'm going to start with my first fence post. Let's start with, we'll put the first one kind of just about there. So I'm not going to draw the whole thing in. I'm just going to kind of give myself a few markers. I'm going to make this one quite tall. So maybe almost kind of halfway up in line with my road. The one next to it, I'm going to do 3 fingers apart. I tend to use fingers to explain distances. The next one, I'm going to do 2 fingers apart. Now, one thing that's really interesting in the videos that I've posted for you is about your eye level. So how it, once you establish where your eye level is, where you're looking at, so for instance, these fence posts are going to appear to be quite similar on this line, but the line below is dropping to get the feeling of distance. There's a really good explanation of that on the second video link. There's a guy who set up a camera and he set it up at his eye level, and then he's kind of walked away and started walking forward, so you can see how the level of his feet changed, but the level of the top of his head doesn't change. And then he's done it from his dog's level. You have to watch a video to realize what I'm talking about, but it's very, very interesting. Okay, the next one I'm going to do 1 finger. So I've done 3 fingers, 2 fingers, 1 finger. And they're all kind of pretty much on the same level. That makes sense.
What size paper are you using, Julie? Is it A4 or A3?
This is a little book. I'm so glad you said A4 because that's my that's what I grew up with. So it's a Canadian letter size, but yeah, English A4. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got this little sketchbook from Dollarama. I go through hundreds of these. I just really like the paper, and the $4 are so good. Okay, so I'm going to start with my first fence post. This is going to be the thickest one because it's the one closest to me. Is that still showing up okay on the camera?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, good. And then the next one, I'm going to do it a little bit narrower. The next one, again, a little bit narrower. And the last one, quite narrow. And then I'm going to start connecting these. Now this is where the bottom angle comes in. The top angle is pretty straight. at the bottom angle and kind of almost mimicking this vanishing angle of the road. So I'm going to make it wider, a little bit wider at the top. So you see I've just got that little angle. So when we talk about vanishing points next week, you can see this vanishing point is kind of coming over to about here. Let's say we'll talk about all of that next week. You could always have it coming off this side as well. So we're just getting the idea down. We can fix lines, go over them again later. I'm going to start with my little house is kind of just off the side of the road. So I'm going to start with my first little cabin. So not worrying about any shadows right now. Just deciding where our objects are going to go. And feel free to make changes, adjustments. I'm going to make my second house a little bit larger.
I don't know if you see this, but I have a cat who decided that she wanted to participate, and
Ah, I love cats.
she's been coming to the page, and she's stopping me from drawing.
Oh, yeah, my cat sat completely on my paper
Yeah,
today, and because cats just love paper, right?
yes, they do. And as if you're not paying attention to them, they're gonna be right
Oh,
there.
yeah. They're
Over
gonna
top.
make you pay attention.
Oh
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, I do a lot of sewing as well, and my cats, one of my cats loves to sit on the sewing machine too.
Yeah. Oh, on the sewing machine.
On the actual sewing machine. Yeah.
Wow. So I've dropped the horizon line of the smaller house or the shed or whatever you want this to be, or it could be the porch. You know, I'll leave that up to you what you want this to be, whether it's, but I've kind of dropped the horizon line to make it look like it's in front. But this horizon line that the second building is on, that's going to be my main horizon line. And after me saying don't put it in the middle, it's ended up in the middle. C'est la vie. Did everybody open the video okay from the last class?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great.
Up and check.
Say if you want to put a whole village in here, this is your time to draw. So you can add or take away any areas of this that you want. We're drawing together tonight, so once we start shading, it's up to you what you want to add, take away, change. I'm going to make this into a little bit of a hill. I feel like I want to kind of give this a slight slope. So I'm going to give you my little cheat on trees. I have a little easy trees thing, so I'm gonna zoom in for this. How to do easy trees. So I give myself a very faint guideline to start with. And then trees are not symmetrical either side, and the branches get they get wider as they get lower. So I'm gonna just do these little scribbly lines. I'm going to start side to side, but some of them I'm going to cross over. I'm literally just scribbling, and as I get lower, they're getting wider. But every now and again, I'm going to maybe do like a double one. You know, kind of shade a bit more on one side. So I kind of scribble up the middle. So I'm kind of scribbling in a curved way, and then I say every now and again, kind of double up a bit. And I always take them all the way to the ground because you wouldn't see, from a distance, you wouldn't see the trunk. And then I kind of make, because trees are 3-dimensional and the branches would be coming forward as well, I kind of make the middle a bit dense. So I will do that a few times. So let's do one behind here. So start with, I would say start with a skinny little, kind of like a curved triangle. So I kind of make the top a little bit more defined. You can also have like little twigs, you know, sometimes they don't have, the branches have snapped off or whatever. You could do these like just little lines where the little twigs would be. And then I start kind of just scribbling side to side. And because this is behind, I'm going to imagine where that would be coming out. Does that make sense? I will keep doing those to show you. Easy trees. Maybe I'll do a little diddy one over here. A straight line. Little curved triangles. I'm kind of doing like a seesaw. How are we doing with those trees? It's just practice. I find the more scribbly you do them, the kind of better they look. If you try and do them really neat and tidy, they don't look as good. So you can have, you know, fainter trees in the distance. We can put another kind of little hill here. Yeah, I might put, and I could put, these ones can just be kind of scribbles. They don't have to be, and obviously they'd be lighter. So you can do lighter ones in the distance. So as things get further away, well, it's getting smaller, they get more muted, lighter in value. And these, I'm just scribbling these ones. The distance one don't have to be in any detail because they're far away. So I'm just lightly scribbling. So I'm gonna have a little break from trees for a minute because we can put some more in. We're gonna just establish some mountains. So when I draw mountains, think about the stock market where it kind of goes up and then down a bit and then up a bit and then down a bit and then, you know, it's kind of, it's not a simple peak. And then I think I'm gonna kind of send it back down, maybe steeper on this side. So I'll do that in a few more places. Maybe another one. And then might take one up here. And then maybe a few peaks just appearing. So establish the peaks to start with. And then we can work on all of the different gradients later. So the most important thing is, where is your light source coming from? Is it coming from this side or this side? It might be easier to do it the same side as me, just because then you can show your fence shadows to get a definite light source. So there's also a copy of this in the notes. No Nora or Leanne today. Just gonna quickly check my emails. Nora sends her apologies, but not heard from Leanne.
It's unusual.
Yeah. I might just well, it's a bit late now, but okay, so just gonna show you that pendulum thing with my ruler. So I would say establish the light source. Just gonna move this across a little bit so you can see. So I'm gonna pretend that this eraser is my light source. None of this. So I'm gonna use the little circle on my ruler to establish the light source. And you see how I'm going to use this like a pendulum. So it's quite handy that rulers have this little circle, and I'll often put if I'm doing a painting, I'll often put a pin either in the painting or off the side of the painting, and then just use this as a pendulum. So I'm going to just draw obviously the shadows get longer. And then for these trees, building. It's just a very rough exercise on the lights, but you see how I kept my rulers on a pivot for the light. So I'm gonna start putting some detail into this now. I did put the grass in later on, and I actually used a Sharpie for the grass because here it's gonna be quite dark because it's in shadow, and it was kind of easier to do the stroke. So you decide where you want your darkest parts to be. I decided to make my trees quite dark as well as the shadows of the mountains, but I mean, it's your drawing, so you can decide where everything's gonna go. I did put shadow underneath the roof here as well, but I tend to do all of the drawing part first and then do the inking later. Gina, you okay? You look a little bit just
I'm getting
checking.
more tired here. No, I am listening.
Okay, I was a little bit worried. I was just talking too much or confusing you. I just wanted to check. Let me know if it's if I need to repeat anything. So yeah, so to start with shadows under my fence. So when you start shading, think about the shading techniques that we practiced last week, the smudging, the hatching, the cross hatching. Kind of think about the ones that you enjoyed. So if my fence is a handspan from the bottom of my paper,
Yeah.
then the distance between the top of the fence panel and the house is about another handspan. So it's like almost halfway.
Okay. Yeah.
And by really exaggerating that, at least that first one, it will
Yeah.
send everything back. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me try this. Thank you.
Yeah. is everybody okay going to 9:30 again today?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna just start just working on the mountains and showing you a few techniques with that. So I am gonna put like a definite kind of split going down my mountain. So I might take it down this way. So then I can have make it look kind of more three-dimensional. I might do a few smaller splits wherever there's a little peak, something like that. So wherever there's like a little peak, I'm just gonna run some lines down it. And you can do that with the other ones. They don't all have to go in the same direction. It just helps make them look three-dimensional. So just running some lines from where the peaks are. See how that takes the flatness away?
Mm.
Mm. Yeah, it definitely makes a difference.
Yeah, and that's just with lines. We haven't even done any shading yet. The other thing I do for mountains is I'll often put like just a few kind of little scribbles to get the feeling of like the cracks and crevices and almost like kind of zigzags.
Mm.
And then I'm going to take a soft pencil. So this is a 4B. I'm going to start shading one side of that crevice. So you can use, I'm using cross hatching. So I'm going in two directions. But I'm sorry, can anybody hear my husband's TV? I'll turn it down if it's, no? Okay, it's okay. A lot of screaming going on. I didn't know if it was being picked up.
Is he watching anything fun?
I don't know, but it doesn't sound fun. There's a lot of screaming going on. So it doesn't sound like very nice.
Oh, I thought maybe he was like watching a hockey game or something.
Oh
Although
no.
there's no hockey game right this today.
Oh, is there? Who's
I
playing?
don't know if there's a hockey game. It's Thursday
Oh.
night. It shouldn't. I don't think so.
So I'm gonna do a small amount of shading on the other side, but not that much because I mean, I don't want to leave one side completely white, but I'm gonna go very light on the other side. So if you paint, you can apply the same technique when you paint. The nice thing about working on these things in pencil is you only have to worry about darks and lights. You don't have to worry about color. Although if you want to put color in this, obviously go ahead.
Oh,
Are you okay?
yeah, I'm not, I haven't internalized the shading like you do it so effortlessly. Like, and I guess it's the light source and how it should land, right?
Yeah, so the easy formula is if you create a peak, put a line down where the top of the peak is, just a wobbly line, and then focus on the opposite side of the line for your shading.
Right.
So I start quite heavy at the top part, and I follow the line down, and then I kind of taper off, and then I'm going to blend that out. So remember we did the smudging technique? You can even smudge
Yeah.
it. You can even smudge it out, you know, like
Yeah.
you could smudge it out. So then you're very lightly shading on the other side.
Mhm.
And this mountain is in front of this one. So there might be a little bit of cast shadow here from this mountain because it's in front. But this didn't happen overnight. It took me years to, and I looked at a lot of mountains. And I've got many oopses that I threw away.
Mhm.
But because nobody really taught me how to do this. It was more just looking at mountains and looking at photographs and actually printing photographs in black and white. That helps a lot.
Oh.
I'll often, if I'm using reference photographs for a painting, I'll print them in black and white so I can see where the values are. Because often when you're looking at something in color, it's hard to see where
Right.
the values are, because if something's green and something's blue, it's hard to see which one's lighter. But if you photocopy it in black and white, you automatically see then, oh, the green's lighter or the blue's lighter. So it kind of really helps with the value scale.
Mhm.
But the rule of thumb is things that are in front are going to be a bit darker, more, more bolder. And as they get further away, they're going to be more muted. So this is where the inking is going to come in handy. So why don't we, I'll work with you on the inking side, because the inking, I think, will help define the lights and darks more easily, like I did on this one. So you
The
can,
smudging's really good
yeah, I love the smudging. Yeah, smudging's
on
really
me.
fun.
It really spreads the color,
Yeah,
you know.
I feel like smudging's very forgiving, and you can kind of have some fun with it and really
Mm-hmm.
do some great blending, you know. Yeah, I really enjoy the smudging too. And you can just smudge on one side.
Right.
Is anybody coming up with their own composition and changing things? Oliver and people do something a little bit different. I'm going to bring in a little bit of my marker just in a few places. Does this one work? That one's dead. So you can definitely overdo the inking, but if you use it just in a few places, it can really enhance.
How are you deciding where to use that?
So I'm going to be putting most of it in the trees, but I've kind of decided that I'm going to send one of the trees backwards a little bit by not putting the black on it. So this one is closer, so I'm going to put more black on this one and not this one. I'm definitely going to put some black underneath the arches of the roof, and then this fence post is closer, and so it would be more defined. And then I'm just putting a little bit on the peaks on the shadow side.
And which Sharpie are you using? The ultra fine or just?
I'm using the ultra fine. Yeah. What I will use for the grass is there'll be a bit of shadow. I'm going to use the fine here, but just a little bit of the grass in the foreground, because things would be a lot more defined in the foreground. A little bit my grass here. And I'll probably switch to the fine as it gets further away. How are we doing?
So Julie, have you gone over the trees with the marker yet?
Just a little bit. So
Yeah.
not as much as I did on this one. On with this drawing, I've just gone mainly on the shadow side, the right hand side of the trees and the tops. Yeah. Just to kind of define them a little bit. And I haven't done all of them. I've just done the ones that I feel are closer, that are in front to send. And I haven't done these ones because I'm kind of sending those back to make them look more muted.
Yeah.
And then I've just defined the fence posts with a little bit of Sharpie and the grass. I've left my shadows just in pencil, but I have gone with a 6B closer. So the closer the shadow is to the object, the darker the shadow is.
Those pencils you recommended at dollar store
Yeah.
were great. At Michael's, they were $12.
I know, and these are 2 and they're just as good.
I know. They're lovely.
I mean, if you think about basically everything I got was from the dollar store. I got the pencils, I got the book, and I got the Sharpies.
Yeah.
That's all you need. I even got the eraser from the dollar store. Like,
Right.
you know, I'm all for buying quality art supplies. And when it comes to a lot of the markers I use and paints, I do go to Desserts or Curry's and get, you know, I get good quality stuff. But I'll always try something out before I recommend it. But and say I just find like this sketchbook, I love the paper. The paper feels really nice. And these pencils are just, yeah, they're great. I've got multiple sets of these because I use these for my students. And in the past, I have spent a lot of money on pencils. I use the Prismacolor ones. And I think with regards to sketching pencils, these are pretty good. They have watercolors at the moment, a watercolor set in Dollarama. And I've bought Winsor Newton watercolor sets for about $50 for like the small travel set. And I thought I'll just try the one in the dollar store, the watercolor set, and it's great. So I've bought a whole bunch of them.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, you just have to kind of know what you need and what you're looking for. Because I've made mistakes as well. But I'll normally try something out, and if it's half decent, I'll think, right, that's what I'm going to use in my classes. But they have watercolor pads at the moment. Again, I bought one, tried it out, really liked it, so I bought one for all my students. And then the watercolor kit's really good. Their paint's not great, but and their brushes, you have to just look to see if the hairs are loose. Well, some of the brushes are okay. But I think I don't feel like the quality is always that good in other stores that are designated art stores. They just hike up the prices, but you're not really getting anything better, you know.
Right, right. Well, you would know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do test out a lot of stuff. How are you getting on with your smudging?
My finger's good.
Good. Yeah.
My mountains are not pretty. Next time.
It's just practice.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, you try it and you go, ooh. Like, honestly, my mountains look like a bunch of nipples. Like, I'm going, oh, Jane. And it's because I don't have it, you've got it all beautiful and I don't have that sense yet.
But I've been practicing a lot,
I know.
and I still have disasters. I always say I've lost my mojo when I have days when I just can't pull anything together.
Yeah, I'm learning.
Yeah. It's like learning anything new.
Mhm.
I'm gonna try horse riding on Sunday, which I haven't done for a very long time. But I'm doing an energy exchange. They've booked me for a paint night, and the last time I did a paint night there, I was like, I wouldn't mind having to go a horse riding. So they asked me if I wanted to do a energy exchange. So I'm gonna ride horses and then do a paint night for them afterwards. So that sounds fun.
For you.
Hope I'm not too tired to do the paint night.
Yeah. I made my cabin's too small. But that's the way it is.
They're just really far away. Well, Dean did this one with me as well, and he did them absolutely tiny and said, well, they're just really far away. It's a really long driveway. So just a little reminder, if you choose to do the homework, there's 3 cool videos to watch, even if you only just get to watch the first one. It's very interesting. So there's shading, light and form, and the artistic eye training is both really good videos. If you want to go advanced, try the mind-blowing one. Have a look at the notes, and then I say if you want to carry on working on your sketch, there's the sketch there. And then with regards to the homework, pick one object. It can be anything. I suggest you pick something fairly simple.
Yeah.
The practice objects you did last week, any one of those would be fine. So pick one object, try sketching it twice with a different angle on the light source. And then if you want to try another way of doing it, is to put it on a different colored surface. So if you do the first sketch on a dark surface, do the next sketch on a light surface, and just observe how the reflected light works. And we will review next week. But I hope you enjoy the notes. I hope you find them useful.
Yeah.
Very
Me
much.
too.
I did enjoy putting them together. So I think it's a good refresher for me as well to put the notes together, and I welcome your feedback on them, because it's the first notes I've done on more of a drawing fundamentals course.
Well, it's very clear.
Opposed to the
Very nice.
sorry.
Mhm.
Very
Yeah.
clear. It's very it makes it very easy to follow, at least in the first lesson. I thought that was quite good.
Oh, great. Thank you. So they're there to help. And then what I'm going to add in for next week is vanishing points into the notes. So you'll have that. So we've done different shading techniques, light sources. The next one's going to be vanishing points and how to get perspective. So we're going to be doing a street scene. So I'm doing that because in one of the videos it kind of nicely links in. He's showing a couple of different street scenes with vanishing points, and also a street scene in in really bright daylight, and then a street scene in typical English cloudy
Oh.
door, and you can see how the light, you know, can really affect how everything appears. But I chose these videos because they're English as well, so it's you know, lights, you know, big issue for us. So, you know, especially when you're doing outside drawings and that kind of thing. So anyway, so I will send this video. I will send the next lot of notes. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. But thank you for joining me.
Thank
Have
you.
a lovely evening.
Thank you so much. Have a good night,
Okay.
everyone.
Take care. Bye.
Hi, Julie.